Michael is with us in Detroit. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing today, sir?
Better than I deserve. How can we help?
So, I'm very thankful and fortunate for where I'm at. I've saved and scrimped a lot in my life, and I have a pretty good savings. And I grew up in a very, very poor household, and was homeless for a while, and I'm debt free, and I'm sort of concerned that I'm not maximizing what I could be doing. My goal really is to leave behind some generational wealth for my children. But I'm pretty nervous when it comes to real estate, especially I've been listening to a lot of folks with their homes. People aren't being forced to pay their rents, and then the people that own these properties are, losing them. So I'm just looking for some guidance on what someone in my position could do.
I'm sorry, what to do with what? You want to build
How to
generational wealth, and people are losing their houses because they don't have to pay rent. I don't understand.
Yeah. So look for better investments. So, right now I'm maxing out my 401k to the legal limit, and I've got some investments in some mutual funds, but I'm not really especially astute, I guess, at investing. And so I know that you speak a lot about real estate, but I was wondering if you just had any guidance on, how to maximize returns if you're a little skittish on real estate.
Okay, if you're asking what to invest in, number one, all investments have a level of risk.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And that means there's unknowns. That means things are going to happen that you can't predict, and that obviously if you knew a negative thing was going to happen, you would not be in that investment. We all would avoid that. That's obvious. But there are every single investment has a risk. Okay? Now let's start with a savings account. You could open a CD and make 1% on your money, and you don't have any risk. Oh, yes, you do. Wait. All investments have risk. What's the risk of making 1% on your money? Well, we just talked about it a minute ago. Inflation runs 4%, 4.2. And taxes are going to take a fifth of what you make, a fourth of what you make, a third of what you make. Okay? And so you got to make 6, but you're only making 1, and so you are losing 5% a year in purchasing power when you save money at 1%. So you just picked a risk, an investment that you thought had no risk, and you pretty much guaranteed a loss in purchasing power.
Okay.
So that one doesn't work. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is doing high-risk things where you lose all the money. And you play, you go to the roulette table, or you play Bitcoin, or you play gold, or you play, you bet football, or I don't know, whatever you want to call these things that are gambling in essence, and you hope that you hit, and you think that you're the exception and you're going to hit. And we don't do that one either. So what we do play in is in the middle. And in the middle, I found 2 things that I'm comfortable with the risk and with the returns, and that's real estate, which has some risk. The renter may not pay. The house may burn down. It may get flooded. A tornado may hit it. A tree may fall across it. Some government agency may lose their dadgum mind and decide COVID means that they have the right to take over the freaking world. Oh, wait, that just happened. And so, and they shut down. I had a guy in one of our properties who was beating his wife, drinking and tearing up everything. It had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with he's an idiot, and we couldn't get him out because they had a moratorium on evictions because of COVID in Tennessee. That's been lifted, thank God. And we tossed that piece of trash out. Bless his little wife's heart, Oh, God, what a mess. And so, but this is a risk of owning real estate. And people say, well, about real estate, renters will always pay. You don't know anything about renters. So, some do, some don't, and you do your best, just like not all employees work. Hello. And so these are risks you take. So you assess the risk versus the return, and you accept the risk, pretty much know you're going to have some of it, and that goes with the returns. And if you measure that out, that's what wealthy people do. And so I buy real estate and accept the risk, and I love the returns. I buy mutual funds and I accept the risk, and I look for the returns. I don't buy single stocks. A valid investment, but too much risk for me, versus the return I get. I've been broke, and I don't need to lose my money. And so I don't put all my money or a bunch of my money in one company. Although had you put it in Apple, you would have done well. Had you put it in Microsoft, you would have done well. But I don't do that. I've got friends that have done all kinds of single stock investments, and it's like a fishing story. They always talk about the one they catch, right? They talk about it on the golf course, right?
Oh, sure.
And they always got a story. So, but it's a risk analysis, Michael. That's what you learn to get used to. There is no formula where you don't take risk and you make money. Doesn't exist.
Yeah. It just comes down to how much risk you're willing to take. And again, I want to dive a little deeper on that because I know that advice and I've heard you give it many, many times. You're not saying that it's wrong to do, but it's just really, really risk. And you've learned over time with your track record of investing and the appetite that you had for risk coming out of getting debt free. I'm just not going to play that game. It's not worth it. And that's really what we need to hear. I mean, you could certainly invest in a single stock, but you got to be on top of it or you lose your shirt. You got to really know what you're doing.
I mean, I could take $10,000 and put it in a slot machine.
Right.
But I just don't like the payout probabilities.
And that's really important. Yeah.
And but that doesn't mean you sometimes you don't hit on a slot machine.
Right.
But I'll guarantee you I do know who hits on a slot machine.
Yeah.
The casino.
Oh yeah.
They make money on them every day.
Yeah.
No one else does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you start to learn these games, and you go, that's the game, that's the game, that's the game. So I'm going to measure the risk versus the return, and I'm going to accept the risk to get the return. And if you don't take enough risk, you get tackled from behind by inflation and taxes. If you take too much risk, you lose your money.
I want to ask you this. When you invest in real estate, and of course now you're paying cash here, so we're talking about cash investing in real estate. What are the risk meters you run through before you buy a house that you're going to rent? What are you looking at? Are you looking at neighborhood, of course? What are some of the things that people need to think through?
Well, the first lens we look at is you make your money on the buy.
Right.
And so is it a bargain?
Mm-hmm.
Which there's not any bargains right now.
Right.
It's white hot. The market's white hot. You're not steal. We bought a lot of foreclosures. We bought a lot of stuff in 2008 when the market went down, all that. But there's no bargains in real estate right now. So I'm not buying real estate right now. I'm building some, but I'm not buying any. And so the thing is I'm looking at the bargain on the front end. That helps me.
Yep.
Because that lowers your risk then. So if you've got a property that's worth $300,000 and you pay $180 for it, you just limited your risk.
Yes.
And now then obviously you got to look at the property and go, is this marketable? I mean, if it's a weird twisted up floor plan that's not rentable or resellable, then there's a reason it was a bargain. Mm-hmm. It sucks.
Right.
So you just gotta use some common sense and go, somebody walks up to this, are they gonna want to rent it? Somebody walks up to this later and I want to sell it, are they gonna want to buy it? And so we're looking at the curb appeal, the quality of the property, the location of the property, and then what are we going to rent it for? What's the rental market versus what we pay for it? And that's your return on investment. It's a fairly simple equation. And so, but there's a lot of common sense. That's why it's good to buy real estate in your area because you intrinsically know the area.
Yep.